Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Wilson. We're bringing you tonight again investments and finance in Ukraine. With the war going on right now, we have a different theme, and we will continue that different theme until we have victory here in Ukraine. I'm the owner and founder of Andesite Blue, and we're brought to you here by Toloka Studios, which I'm very grateful for opening this up and giving us an opportunity to talk. I apologize that every week seems to be either a different day or a different time, but so we have to be flexible because everybody's schedules change, and so we make it fluid. At least it is recorded, so you're able to watch it when it afterwards from the live broadcast. I hope in the near future we'll have a more of a consistent time frame and day. Monday is going to be our regular time, as long as nothing gets in the way of that. But anyway, I have a special guest tonight. He's kind of endeared to me a little bit because he's a retired Navy captain. My brother is also a retired Navy captain. He's actually has served at the time that I served as a U.S. Marine. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce you to Gary Tabach.
Thanks, Mike. Semper Fi, brother.
Yes, Simplify.
And I wanted to be Marine. I was a Marine option, and but Navy needs, and I became a naval officer, which was okay too. But I spent a lot of time with Marines, and Marines have a very special place in my heart.
Oh, very good. Yeah, same. I mean,
Hoorah!
yeah, yeah. Yeah, we're actually very integrated with the Navy,
Yeah, sure.
So
When my daughter was, she served for 2 years on a Marine landing craft, so
okay.
Marine landing ship, Pearl Harbor, out of San
Oh, so
Diego.
she was out. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, the Pearl Harbor out of
No,
San
the ship
Diego.
out of San Diego.
I was going
The
to say
ship
I
Pearl
was in
Harbor.
Pearl Harbor,
Yeah.
so okay, very good. Now your daughter, you said, also just became a JAG.
Yes, she's a JAG officer now. Right. That's all our country needs is one more lawyer.
Yeah. Well, if she's a good one, we
But
do need some good
she's still
ones.
a surface warfare, so she probably wears her surface warfare pin.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
And I put my arms like this not because I'm protecting myself from you, but it's because my shoulder hurts, so
Yeah.
it's
You
more
mentioned you had
convenient.
some.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
so
understand.
it's more convenient for me.
Not a problem. So, I
Because
know
I know
you.
there's some shrinks or somebody who took a psychology 101 is going to say, "Oh, he got his arms crossed, so
Yeah, he's got his arms crossed. He's hiding
he's
something.
hiding
He's not
something."
telling the truth.
Well, I'm not telling the truth, but that's the reason
That's-
my arms crossed.
could you do us a favor and just kind of give us a little bit of your background?
I was born in Moscow, Soviet Union,
Okay.
and my father was a professor, and my mom was a doctor. And my parents, didn't like Soviet Union. My mom was a product of a gulag. My grandfather was in the
Uh,
gulag after the war, and they planned since from 1972 to leave Russia, leave Soviet Union, and they were able to leave in 1976.
okay.
So
Okay.
when we came to the United States, we were like in a refugee status in Italy for about a year, and then 1976 we arrived in Philadelphia, city of brotherly love. Not any longer. We apparently we're like the capital of murder now.
Almost. Yeah. It's up
Yeah,
there.
and but it was a beautiful city. It was great. I went to school there, and I decided that I wasn't going to be another Jewish kid that came to the United States and became a doctor or a lawyer or what have you. And I said I'm going to be like
Doctor,
that
lawyer, actor.
actor,
Yeah.
businessman,
Yeah.
deli owner, whatever. But I decided I was going to be like one of those great, nice, big guys with blue pants and red stripe down their leg,
Okay. Yeah.
strong
The
guys
bloodshot. Yeah. Yeah.
at the embassy when would go for interviews. And I said I was going to join the Marine Corps, and
Okay.
I joined the military, and then I joined for 3 years, and then 30 years later, I said, "Wait a minute, what happened? Where'd I go?" But I ended up using my Russian language, my Russian skills a lot
Okay.
when the Soviet Union collapsed. I visited all of the republics in the Soviet Union.
Okay.
I went to all the prisons in the Soviet Union, all the psychiatric hospitals. I had a pretty interesting career. Then I was with the United Nations during Abkhazian Georgian conflict. Then I was dealt with the arms control and disarmament, and I was in Russia station a couple of times. Was PNG'd once, and then PNG'd second times as a NATO guy. Then I ended up being stationed in Kazakhstan and Poland, in Turkey. I was in charge of anti-terrorism center, NATO anti-terrorism center, and then was chief of staff of NATO representation in Moscow.
Wow,
And then I
okay.
got kicked out of there again. So
You got kicked out of Moscow twice, huh?
twice, yeah. Well,
Wow.
3 times in my
Wow.
lifetime. Once as a kid and once as an American and once as
No
a
brotherly
NATO guy.
love there then, huh?
But it made me an automatic hero in Ukraine. So in 2014, when the war started, I came to Ukraine and decided I could do something or help somehow.
Very good, very good.
And I had a great doctor, and I was close to the Ukrainian community in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this she still is, great doctor. She was a person of the year, Dr. Xenia Cherniak.
Okay.
And she would bring wounded soldiers to be treated.
Mm-hmm. From the 2014 conflict,
right,
from the beginning
right.
then?
So
Okay.
I was working with her, volunteering. So that's how I got involved in Ukraine. So we continued to do that. And then I became somewhat of a media person here, and
Okay.
now I have lots of friends and here. So you know how it is, and then you get get sucked into this Ukrainian life, eating borscht and
and Vareniki, cherry Vareniki.
and Harilka and all that stuff, and you gain about 10 pounds. And so I found these people. I found Ukrainians brave, very giving, very smart, very hardworking,
Mm-hmm.
and yet they know how to party and relax. And I enjoy being here. And of course, now you and I, as two old warriors, we can see how well they fight.
Yes, yes.
How bravely and they fight, and they take an enemy that's much bigger than they are, and they're kicking their ass.
Yeah, it is impressive. I was impressed when I first came, to help train. Our men, the ones that I had of Morska Piechota and Mykolaiv,
The naval infantry.
they just came out. Yes, they just came out from Crimea. They were, occupied in Crimea, and they're actually sieged. The civilians were feeding them through the gate because the Russians had seized the base there in Sevastopol.
Right.
And so they had just relocated to Mykolaiv. It wasn't really a base. It used to be like a mental hospital before compound. It was quite a large compound, and they converted it into a base. Quickly turned it into one, and they half of the people stayed in Crimea because they had homes, their families there. So they had a choice. You can either stay and be assimilated into the Russian culture during that time in 2014, or come. And so half of the unit came to Ukraine, and so it was a very depleted Marine Corps. And I came in there, and I volunteered as a civilian using my U.S. Marine training skills, and I brought the manual and I had it translated into Ukrainian. So it's the original U.S. Marine marksmanship manual in digital and copied form into Ukrainian.
Outstanding. Thank you.
But I'm happy. I was happy to see over the years how quickly that they did start putting it together and grow and became, a formidable force.
Fighting force, absolutely, yes, absolutely. And whoever says, say that they didn't do anything for all those years since 14 to this, for 6, 7 years, that's not true. They did.
They were constantly.
There's a progress that they made, a great progress. They've built a fighting military,
Very impressively in such a short time.
Yeah, they're combat ready type, and their officers are quite talented, and their general staff, and today their commanders, we can see the missions that they pull off. They're giving. They're competing with Israelis at this point.
And the Israelis, they had to step it up quick, didn't they?
Right, they did a lot of pulled off a lot of good operations.
Yeah. Even the technology side of it, Ukraine has developed some weapons, and they put them into use.
Sure.
From what I understand, and what I've read in the reports, is that it's the one that sunk the flagship of Russia.
Moscow.
Yep.
The flagship, right. It's the two missiles, the Neptune missiles, that were developed by the Luch
military factory, or their engineers really came up with a pretty good missile that's not very expensive, and sank the Slava class ship that was designed to sink our aircraft carrier groups, not just the aircraft carrier, but the entire group. So I guess we need to take a look at our admirals and politicians who created the entire aircraft carrier group to protect themselves from this Slava class ship, when two very inexpensive Ukrainian missiles can sink it. You know, we spent billions and billions of dollars, and the Ukrainians just did it. And I have a pleasure of knowing the head engineer who has developed.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
The guy who I had a program with him actually, who has during the 90s was able to save Luch. When he could have sold the machinery, the technology, and probably sell the land to build a condominium, but he saved it, and he was working on it and working it. A very modest, very nice gentleman, and now Ukraine could be proud of their sons who did it, and the young officers who made that decision to fire at that split moment when from the ship showed up, the Slava class Moscow showed up for a few minutes from the horizon. They thought that the Ukrainians would not catch them, and they caught them, and they made a quick command decision, and they fired, and they sunk them.
That's fantastic. No, that's working together, and being visionary. You remind me, when you're talking about this story, you remind me of the U.S. in a sense in World War II, how that was the industrial age of the United States, and it showed. I mean, the amount of battleships, the amount of that we put out, the amount of cruise ships, the amount of all aircraft carriers, everything that we put together during that period in World War II was unmatched around the world. It was phenomenal, and it really made the United States rise, and come to the top and come to the surface with its abilities, its technologies, and power. Ukraine is talented with technologies and people that, whether in the IT sector, with software programming, through hardware. I mean, we have the capability here, and it does make you proud.
Right. No, they have the brains and the ability to do this here. And you mentioned World War II, and those of us who've been shot at, we tend to reach out to God very quickly. And I can say that God is definitely on the Ukrainian side, and it's shaping the nation. This nation is being shaped right now and is being built, and it's going to be a great nation that the entire world is watching right now.
Yes.
Nobody's helping really, but helping a little bit.
Breadcrumbs, right?
A little bit, nickel and dime them, but they're doing all of the fighting with very little weaponry that they have.
Yeah, lack of ammunition.
Right, and hopefully the Lend-Lease will start working one day, I hope. And hopefully they'll get the offensive weapons so they can go into counter offensive and clear their land from those invaders. So I think that I compare Ukraine a lot to Israel, when Israel was always facing much bigger enemy, and every time they would kick them out, and they couldn't fight, so they would go to terror war. And now I can see where they do the same thing here in Ukraine. They starting to terrorize.
They start going after the civilians.
The civilians, the infrastructure, kids, hospitals, schools. And they're just bombarding anything that they can. But the Ukrainians are holding it very well, and they've erased the whole cities. The thing is, the idiocy of this thing is that the Russians are claiming that they're trying to liberate the Russian-speaking population. But yet they're erasing the cities, the Russian-speaking cities off the face of the earth, like Kharkov, like Mariupol.
Melitopol,
Nikolaev, Odessa,
Donetsk, Luhansk. I mean,
this is all Russian-speaking. They're destroying people that they're saying they're liberating from the fascists, and it's just nuts. And they're saying the language, you can't speak Russian. I speak Russian language. I don't speak Ukrainian. I don't feel like there's any kind of...
And nobody's condemning you for it?
No, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, they switched to Russian right away as soon as they realized that I don't understand Ukrainian. So it's a lot of propaganda, a lot of Soviet-Russian propaganda to it. But I think that, as you mentioned, World War II, I was thinking, when was the United States the greatest? When was the United States, as you and I, went to serve and protect?
Yeah.
Definitely today it's changed, and we have recruiting problems because of that. But especially after Afghanistan, the shameful withdrawal. But nobody likes to join losers. Everybody wants to join the winners.
Correct.
So it was after World War II, and after World War II, in the 50s and 60s, American families had homes, a garage,
The middle class
a car,
boomed.
The middle class boomed, a car, a refrigerator, a TV, a lot of times color TV, a washing machine, things that the rest of Europe and nowhere in the world people could even dream about it. They were having their own car. But in America, it was all possible. But not only did we advance in that way, we were also very much advancing in human rights, in equality in the United States. This is when all the Martin Luther King and all the movements came up, and the Jews could join the golf clubs and things like this. And why did that happen? It's because in our Congress, in our presidents, were combat veterans. 90% of our congressmen were veterans, not only just military veterans, they were combat veterans. They fought for our values, for American values. They bled. Their buddies died for it. So when they joined Congress, it wasn't because of their, for personal, selfish reasons. They wanted to continue to serve our country.
Correct.
And today in our Congress, we hardly have 10% of people that even were in the military, that were even in the service. So today, and they're staying in Congress and in the Senate, like in Politburo, until they die. They never leave.
Right.
So
Exactly. That's another problem.
They're not serving our nation. They're serving themselves.
Correct.
They're completely detached from reality, and all they want to do is play politics instead of serving the people.
It's easy to spend somebody else's money, isn't it?
True.
And make decisions for that.
And rule our lives. They get poisoned. Power is poisonous. And people get poisoned by it.
Yeah, unfortunately, and this is.
I'm sorry, and I think this is what's going to happen to this country. After they win the war, and they will beat, and they definitely will beat something unprecedented, not only the nation and the power that's much bigger than they are, but also a nuclear power. And I think that the men and women who are going to come back from combat, from defending this country and bled for this country, and they're going to end up in their Congress, in their parliament, in Ukrainian, and things will change. The corruption will be way less. It'll be all under control, and then a lot of investments would want to come to this country, like to Israel. They will see that there's stability. There's army that will defend this land. So there's going to be stability. There's going to be reparations. So I think that it's a bright future ahead. For
Absolutely,
Ukraine.
There's a lot of parallels. One of the things that I said about Ukraine, why I was so endeared to it, is because I saw the struggles over the 1100 years of Ukrainian history. You see the ups and downs, collapse of country, regain of country, and the movement of territories and borders and everything is just constant back and forth. Whether it was Poland, whether it was Russia, whether the gulags, whether it was Turkey. It was constant struggle. People were constantly fighting for Ukraine. Now, Ukrainian people are naturally a peaceful people.
Oh, they're very peaceful.
They don't like to fight if they don't have to, but then they get pushed into a corner, and then boom, now you've opened up the beast. The United States also was very similar to that. They were an oppressed people that left. The culture of the United States is start a new life, and that's what happens with Ukrainians is they'll tolerate a lot. They tolerate a lot of oppression, but then when it just becomes a breaking point, and then they become liberated. There's always a hero or a couple of heroes, and then they get the people together, and they get their country back, and then you see the singing and the dancing and all of the beautiful culture that they have with it, and there's just enjoyments and the barbecues and everything that we love to do. Everybody rejoices in that, and you just see that in their warmth. Their open arms and their willingness to help and to just be a loving people. And the United States used to lead in the charitable aspects of giving to other nations and giving to, I mean, the charities that go out and help this nation, whether it's Africa or India or Asia, anywhere that there's, places where it's struggled, the
Right.
United States has always they always had the bleeding heart, as you would say. But we haven't gone through our lack of oppression. You begin to see that now. You begin to see this heaviness, this weight coming on in the political realm that is starting to press down on the populace, where it's making it uncomfortable in many areas to be in the United States. Business-wise, I'm a businessman.
And they all come to Florida.
Yeah, well, I opened my business in Florida.
Right, and then they come Florida from California, New York, and they want to change the
back to
Floridian
what
law
they were.
to
Yeah,
what
exactly. Same with
you know.
Texas, though. Texas and Florida. So
Right.
Texas, Florida, and Alabama, like the three main states that are very corporate friendly.
Right.
That everybody loves to bring their factories out of New York, out of California, out of these blue states that are just squeezing the death out of them. I had a company in California, and you really can't breathe.
It's because we're not changing our politicians, because they're the same one.
Right.
They're there for forever. And then like a senator.
Well, how does Jerry Brown
like
get elected as a failed governor and gets reelected later in life?
Well, it's like or a Senator Biden. For 40-some years he's a senator, and then he becomes a president, vice president, then a president. It's like or even Bush's. Father is a president. And the son is a president, son is a governor. So,
yeah.
It's a family business, and it shouldn't be that way. We should bring businessmen. We should bring engineers, doctors. We should bring a lot of different people into being professionals, into being politicians. That they're there to improve our military people, to improve our country, to move ahead and not stay there forever. And this way we become like a Soviet Union, a very corrupt. If you're in politics for too long, you become a corrupt. You become corrupt. There's no way you can stay clean for that long.
Your wallet grows roots.
Right. And unfortunately, hopefully our country will recover from that, and we're not going to use FBI as a weaponized FBI to fight your political opponents. I remember FBI I wanted to join FBI, and I did join the FBI at one point, but then I stayed in the service. It was a very, very proud moment. This is the guys that protected you from the government. We have two kinds of thieves. We have thieves that steal your watch, steal your wallet, steal your phone. I mean, those thieves, they choose you.
Right.
And then you go to the authorities, you go to the law enforcement, and they try to protect you from these kind of thieves.
Right.
But there's other kinds of thieves, the thieves that we choose. And then they steal our future. They steal our hopes. They steal, dreams of our children. And if we try to go against them, then the law enforcement agencies,
step in and
they protect them from us,
exactly,
from the people. And I hope we don't become that country where the thieves are their second kind. I hope that we'll stay with the thieves of the first kind, that just trying to steal your wallet and your watch, and the law enforcement agencies protect you from those kind.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And of course, it all reflects on Ukraine. It all reflects on Ukraine. A lot of Ukrainians, I think, don't realize that. Or people around the world don't realize that the American politics have a direct influence on what happens in this country. Of course, if something is happening in Brazil, it's not going to affect the United States. Or if something is happening in Tunisia, it's not going to affect the United States. But whatever happens in the United States will affect practically every country in the world, and particularly the ones that are in armed conflict.
Correct. And even on an economical side, we saw that in 2008.
Right.
That crash was a United States manufactured crash, a bubble that needed to be bursted, and it affected
everybody,
the world.
Right.
Ukraine, economics, everybody felt it.
And I always tell them, I said, you can't not participate in the American politics, because then American politics will have a direct effect on you.
Correct.
If we sneeze, the whole world gets pneumonia.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Well put. Well put. So, and just kind of on whether it's political, whether it's individually, whether it's economically, whether it is militarily, my eyes are really open to the parallels of the struggles of what Ukraine's going through and what Americans have gone through in the past, and wars and things that especially when they attacked our lands, and Hawaii got bombed, and California was threatened, with some Japanese submarines there, So it was the first time, that somebody actually came in outside of the Revolutionary War, that somebody came in and tried to prick our land, and to attack. And so now we see that here. Ukraine was peaceful from 1992.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, there was some political strains and some oil games that Russia played. Well, we're going to shut the
Right.
oil off through your pipelines, blah blah blah. Those constant.
But I still think it was a more or less normal country where since Russia had one president, Ukraine's already changed 5 presidents.
Right.
And none of them got killed. None of them ended up in prison. A lot of talk and a lot of spitting and throwing poop with each other. But I mean, if you ever visit Israeli Knesset, then you can see some. But it's like Churchill said, you can't watch how to make sausages or laws, or in Parliament, because they're so two disgusting things. But that's what democracy is. And Ukraine, I think, has been struggling and walking towards and striving towards democracy from day one. They're very freedom-loving people.
They are.
They really have that Kazakh blood in them. That they want freedom, they want independence, they want to make their own choices instead of Big Brother dictating.
Exactly.
Them. And of course, it's we're sometimes we're not very good friends to them. It's just like during World War II, it wasn't just Hitler who was a bad guy. There were a lot of people that collaborated with them, including including President Roosevelt at first. And the same thing with Ukraine. It's not just Putin who's a bad guy. There are a lot of collaborators.
There's
a lot of people
internal
helping.
people that prevents.
Right. And the United States, I think, or today's administration, I better say, and old Europe, they're afraid that the center of gravity will change after the victory of Ukraine. Then maybe it'll be Poland, Ukraine, and Baltic states that will become the center of gravity, not France, Germany, and so on. Maybe Great Britain may join them.
It certainly is.
Who knows? Who knows how things will turn?
Yeah, it is.
And then what are we going to do with the Russians in United Nations, in the Security Council? Should they remain or should they go? Or what are we going to do with the NATO? Is NATO really that effective as we thought it was? So a lot of changes would have to come.
Yeah,
and a lot of
absolutely.
these old guys who's been in power for a long time and who are trying to
and they don't want to let go.
They don't want to let go.
Yeah.
So they're afraid of Ukrainian victory.
Yeah,
Maybe even more than they're afraid of the Russian victory, because with Putin, it's like he's one of them.
Exactly. Business as usual.
Right, business as usual. We'll somehow share that pie.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of the unknowns factors in there, and but there's that drive, that we see in the fight we see within here, that the people really want their peace and this victory. I'm looking forward to that, that moment, that victory. So
we'll certainly have a drink then.
Yeah, we sure will. Well, I tell everybody every time that we're on the show each week, it says on Victory Day that I'm going to have a party every day for 7 days straight, every evening, at my place for 7 days straight, just to rejoice in that victory. I know a lot of our military guys. I'm going to, be inviting them, our heroes, just different people. It's going to rotate. It's just going to be just a celebration for that time of victory, because it's going to be very strong.
Yeah, hopefully, it's going to be soon.
I hope.
And I'm sorry, I forgot. I congratulate you, because I understand your son followed in your footsteps and joined the Marine Corps.
He did, yes. My youngest son was a Marine. He actually had he scored so high that he wanted to go in as an 0300 because he wanted to go into the special services. And I said, son, with a score that high, no, you're not going to be an 0300. It says you could choose any MOS you want with a score that high.
You got to explain to civilians. It means that we choose the jobs that we want to do in the military.
Right, exactly.
And there's a test for enlisted folks that they have to take, and that's where they direct them.
Correct. Or that gives them the ability and stuff.
Right,
So,
ability. It doesn't mean one is smarter or not. Some have like a more lenient for to be cryptologists or linguists. The others ones are more engineering. The other,
yeah, because the score is categorized as many categories and stuff. So,
Yeah.
but his score, as high as it was, I says, go into aviation. Well, then his recruiter also said, look, you need to think about aviation. So he did. He chose aviation. Now, in the core, you can choose aviation, but you don't get to choose fixed or rotor.
Right.
They automatically put him in rotor.
Well, the same thing.
So,
Well, that's what your main transportation is.
it is,
Right? It's your helicopter.
And so he became the helicopter mechanic, and so he was stationed out of Miramar and taking care of the CH-53s there. And then,
Well, it's a great skill to have.
it's one that you can take with you.
Yeah.
And he wants to continue his education. He got the education grant as well, so he wanted to continue as an engineer. So he, it's a great platform, a great springboard for him to continue his education, and that's what he's doing now. He's served his 5 years in and is out. But while he was in there, he applied along with a few thousand other people to be in Marine One, to be mechanics on the president's helicopters.
Marine One is the president's helicopter, right?
And he got selected out of those men.
Yeah, outstanding.
And he got selected with two things against him. It wasn't really against him. He would have had to extend another 2 years onto his contract, or 1 year, I think it was, because they have a minimum time that they can serve there. And they accepted him without the extension, so he didn't have to extend, and his rank. He was E3. And many other guys going in there as E4s and above, they're going in there. So he was a lance corporal, got selected, and then he's got meritorious all of his ranks. So he got over there, got meritorious corporal, and then got meritorious sergeant, and he was working for the with the president. So I said, hey, he's working for the president, and that was a very honorable place. Had the highest clearance,
Yeah, absolutely. No,
so
they trust him with the number one guy.
Yeah, and he's not going to throw a wrench in the in the gears, So
well, hopefully not.
not forget one in there.
Well, Marines are very disciplined, very.
Their protocols.
It takes a special person to be a Marine. I'm convinced of that.
But it's a very, very, very proud moment, that I have my son, to have that there.
Right,
so he's doing well now. He's civilian, with his wife and two daughters. My youngest is gung ho and really going after the family unit, So I imagine they'll probably have another one at least, another child.
Good.
She's very loving home and wife, and mother, and they just love the family core. So why not? I mean, I had 5 sons. I have 1 daughter now. I have 9 brothers and sisters. So it kind of runs in the family.
Happen to be Catholic.
No, we're not Catholic. So not Catholic, not Mormon.
Just loving God.
Just
just loving life.
But anyway, thank you for that.
All right.
Congratulations. So I want to really thank you. And last week we talked about opening up a group on Facebook, on business for entrepreneurs and people with ideas, because of the struggles of the economy right now here in Kiev. Many people have lost their jobs, but they have these things inside of them that they would like to do, but they don't know how to implement it. We talked about that last week, and if you see on the bottom left corner of your screen, it says Facebook. It says Lord of Your Life. Now, it's a very unique, standout name, because in reality, we are in charge of our life, and that's basically what that means. We talk about our Heavenly Father as Lord and God and stuff like that. That's not what that means. Lord of anything just means that you are in charge of that area, that sphere.
Right. And I want to, just last thing I'd like to say, I'm not a businessman, but I'd like to give an advice to my business friends. I think it's time right now to invest in Ukraine.
Absolutely.
Because this is the time when you invest, because after the war is over and all the investment starts, coming in here, and all the reparations and all kind of things are everybody was going to want to be with a winner.
Yes.
then it's going to be a little bit too late. So you
Well,
got to stay ahead of the game. So if I would have had money, I would have invested right now.
your growth range is going to be smaller. There's a curve. There's always a growth curve that comes up, but then it starts to taper off. It'll continue to grow, but your percentages and your margins are more slim. And so your growth isn't going to be as much. And start thinking and start actually investing now in
Right.
Ukraine
Yes.
is the thing to do, because that is where you get your maximum growth.
Absolutely.
And that's why I've set this Facebook page up. It's not only just for entrepreneurs. I actually have it also for investors. It's an opportunity for people to come together, for startups, for all kinds of businesses. The construction is going to go through the roof here for repairments, for
all the stuff that's been
infrastructure,
constructed,
power
Roads.
grids, transportation lines, rail lines, highways. That is just going to be a very big.
A lot of destruction has happened here.
And you look at Israel and how it has changed.
Absolutely.
And I know because I know you're Jewish, and it's your heart. It's your kind of your homeland
Sure,
in the sense
sure.
of your heart. But it's a great testimony.
Sure.
I love Israel. It's a
Yeah.
great testimony of
You
what
can
they've
see
done.
what people created out of a desert and a swamp.
They where
While
they were
they're
lacking
fighting
water.
while they're fighting a war.
Yeah,
Against
exactly.
the greater enemy.
Yeah.
So I think the same thing is waiting.
Right here in Ukraine, yeah. And that's, again, that's the Andesite Blue. That's the company that we do. So we are an investing company where we invest the money here, but we raise the money, we sell the bonds, we give great rates on that. And then with this Facebook, Lord of Your Life, I encourage you to actually go on Facebook on Lord of Your Life, and it's an open forum right now. You can actually join very easily. I would look forward to coming on board and joining. I thank you for joining us this evening. Gary, thank you for
Thank you.
coming.
Thanks,
it's
Mike.
it's a pleasure
Semper
having
Fi,
you.
brother. Semper Fi.
When you get military heads together, we don't have. We never run out of topics. We never run out of things
That's
like that. I love your political stance and
Thank you.
your ideas and your background, because it's absolutely true. You've got a good understanding
We
of
don't,
history.
because most of us, we don't want to live in a socialist state anymore.
No,
We don't want,
no, it's good.
We
And-
don't want free school. We don't want free hospital. We don't want free housing. We don't want free food, because we know that nothing
been
is
there.
free. Yeah, we've been
Yeah.
there, and you end up with with all the equality and fairness, and then you end up with the gulags and firing squads and the secret police. That's what happens.
That's reality.
It's reality. You have to have social justice, but you can't have the fantasy of utopia of a human race, because it just doesn't work like this. We're still competitive animals, and we're still different.
We're
all
designed that
different.
way. Yeah,
we're all different.
We're designed to be competitive, and that's
You can't. Unfortunately, now that many countries and many leaders of our countries are trying to create this Davos, this huge China for the rest of us with the globalization, and everybody's going to get their share and pie, except some of us will.
The only ones who
bigger
are really
pies, yeah.
tooting that horn are the ones that will benefit from it.
Right.
But the other 7 billion will be the prisoners of it.
Well, the ones that are blowing the horn the hardest are going to be also the first ones that they're going to get shot and sent to gulags,
Yeah.
and replaced by thugs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, thank
right.
you, Mike. I guess we
Yes,
can
yeah.
talk forever.
Yeah, we can. We can go on forever. So anyway, thank you. I appreciate
Thank
you joining us
Thank
this
you for-
evening.
thank
That
you
was
for
a
inviting
great
me.
time, and I hope you received something from it. Again, I invite you, and you are welcome to join the Facebook page, Lord of Your Life. And we'll see you next week. I'll have a special guest again next week. We'll be covering some different topics. But I'm really gearing it up. Gary touched on it about the investments in here coming into Ukraine. Now's a good time. And I think we're going to be focusing a little bit each time more on that to give people opportunities and hopes and vision. So have a good night. Thank you.
Have a good night. Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.